defender who won't back down from anyone, no matter how big they are, and he's going to knock down his shots. But even that, like I know, I was talking to Robert a little bit about the pick, and Robert was just surprised about how well he was able to actually just drive and get to the basket. And I was just telling him, like, people were harping so much on he's not the biggest person or he might not be the most explosive athlete. But at the end of the day, when you have high IQ and you're just crafty, you're going to figure out ways to score. You're going to figure out ways to get to the basket, figure out ways to get people open. And I really just think, like, all around, it was a good pick. And I'm really excited to see how he develops and, goes into that role. At the Sixers, I think somebody else who maybe was a little bit overlooked and wasn't as talked about. I really like Tristan da Silva to Orlando. He is a forward, so it does kind of make that whole rotation of the Orlando Magic's rotation a little bit awkward just because they already have so many forwards. But I think they're more than comfortable putting out just a whole lineup of just players who can do a little bit of everything. And that's what Tristan da Silva is. But not only that, he immediately adds shooting to a team that desperately needs it in Orlando. And he's a pretty lights out shooter. So I'm really excited for, I think what you said, like, the rich got richer this draft. I'm really excited to see what teams will do with a lot of these players. I mean, Nikola Topic, who probably won't even play this year for OKC. Like, I'm excited to see what OKC is going to do with him later down the line. Reed Shepherd, he got drafted to a guard room, a backcourt room, and the Rockets that's pretty full already with Fred VanVleet and Amon and Jalen Green. And, even sometimes when you push him down, Dylan Brooks to a shooting guard, and it's kind of just like, where is he going to fully fit in there? But I think it's, again, one of those players that's just like, they're a smart player, they work hard, and they can shoot, and they can pass, and they can do this, and they can do that. And it's almost like when you start naming everything they can do, you start thinking to yourself, well, how are they going to not find time on the court? And I think that's the players you're really looking for. Is the players that their skills are so good that it's almost impossible not to, put them on and play. I mean, you talked about your draft pick and Bailey Shireman, but I'm also kind of excited for Jacoby Walter. Definitely was more of an on ball, ball dominant player at Baylor, where he led the team in scoring. So it'll be interesting to see how he adapts in a role that's definitely going to be a lot less on ball. For the Raptors, there's so many. I wouldn't say we have too many necessarily ball dominant players, but players are going to have the ball a lot more, and he's not going to fully, be the guy that he was. But I really think he can blossom into like a really good shooting guard option. I think he's at like 6'4", 6'5" ish. And he's still pretty young, so he might even grow a little bit. And I think I could really see him pushing RJ in the future. Not really now, more so like maybe 2, 3 years from now, pushing RJ for that starting shooting guard role, if we even still have RJ, just because if Jacoby Walter really outperforms. And I think really already having him and Grady Dick as our 2 youngest players really excites me about this Toronto Raptors roster. I don't really know. If you ask me right now how good do I think the Raptors are going to be next year, I wouldn't say we're going to be a playoff team. I wouldn't even necessarily say we're going to be a play-in team, honestly. But I think we're going to be competitive. I think we're going to have a lot of time to develop and, be better. But at the end of the day, I really just want to see almost everybody on our team just take a step forward as players. So I know you talked about Bailey Shireman, but I mean, just as thinking more so about your young guys on the Celtics, what are, some things you want to see them improve in? 'Cause I know y'all still have, what's his name? The guy who has alopecia. You drafted him 55th last year?
Jordan Walsh.
Yeah, Jordan Walsh. I mean, you also have Bailey Shireman. What is do you would you want to see them get a decent amount of playing time next year, or are you like okay with like the roster and like the rotation as it was after the championship?
I mean, there's definitely some holes out there. I don't love that we brought back Cornette and Keita. I would have loved to us bring back just one because now we have like four centers on roster. Especially because we signed Keita to a multi-year deal. But as far as the wings go, I mean, we didn't really have a backup wing. I mean, if Sam Hauser is the biggest competition, I think Shireman has a good chance, and I think Walsh has a good chance. I'm sure Walsh is not ready yet. But I mean, I would love to see him take a leap this year in the summer league. I know he was one of the leaders for the team this past year in the G League, and they made it all the way to the finals, which they lost. But no, I mean, I definitely things to be excited about. I'll be interested to see who carves out a role, but I mean, there are limited spots. There's not anyone that I'm like, wow, like there's no way like this guy doesn't make the roster. I mean, you could argue that Jordan Walsh could do it. Could this be the year that JD Davidson finally cracks the roster? Could it be Baylor Shireman comes in straight away and just impresses everyone? We still have Jaden Springer. And then I know we also have Ron Harper Jr. as well. I mean, there's a lot of guys on our summer league team that I would not hate to see in a Celtics uniform. But I would love to at least see guys be competitive and hungry. Like things I'm looking for most, I'm just looking for JD to not turn the ball over so much. That's been a huge issue. And if you're turning it over at a high rate in the G League, I mean that's just not acceptable. I mean, you'll never get NBA minutes doing that.
Yeah,
And then for
especially with
Walsh,
point guard.
for Walsh, just being able to shoot a efficient clip. I mean, the athleticism and the speed and the rebounding and the everything else is there. He just needs to be able to shoot an efficient clip. But I mean, I'll definitely be trying to watch some games. I'm not going to be. But I mean, our roster is pretty much set in stone and ready to run it back. I don't think anything will change unless we do like some trade at the deadline where it's something like we trade someone who's injured or we trade someone just to like get rid of a salary for maybe to dump a pick or like I don't know. Yes, he had some iconic moments in the playoffs, but I'm getting a little tired of Peyton Pritchard as well.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd be okay with
I don't
moving
know.
on from him?
No, I don't think we will. I mean, I think we'd only do it if there was a trade out there that were like this makes us better right now. But I mean, there's so many other guards I'd rather have on our team. Pritchard's undersized, and for being like a shooter, he had some pretty inefficient games. I know, yes, he had some efficient ones as well, but I don't know. I mean, also, I mean, not it wasn't too long ago that Pritchard said he was done as a Celtic and that he wanted to get real money and he felt like he wasn't being compensated properly. And then he had his chance to go out and prove it, and he didn't. But we still paid him, so we'll see. We'll see if he can take a leap. I mean, he's definitely due. He's 25, 26. I mean, he's not like a second year player or anything. I mean, he's a guy who's on a 4-year deal. I want to see some better production from him.
Nah, that's fair. I don't know. I was definitely really high on Colton Pritchard coming out of college, and I don't think he's been horrible for y'all. But I definitely think there is some places that he probably could be a better fit. Just because I think it is hard on a team that is so star-studded and coming in and being um, more of a role player. Where I think on some teams he could have more of a TJ McConnell effect, where he is kind of on a bench that needs more scoring.
Yeah.
Where I don't necessarily think the Celtics really need too much bench scoring. They kind of just need the bench to not give up points, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
if you have six players who are solid, if you just stagger their minutes, you have a pretty solid lineup already. But yeah, no, I definitely understand that. I think on my side, just on the Raptors side, I think like I said, I just want to see a lot of players take a step forward. I think Grady Dick did that towards the second half of the season, coming in and averaging like I think it was 14 after All-Star break. I really want to see Scotty be a lot more aggressive. I think Scotty's a great player. I think honestly, like people
The
really
face of
want
the
to hate
league.
on him. Yeah, people really want to hate on him. People really want to hate on him and say like, he isn't as good as these other young stars. And I really just can't wait till we get an actual competent roster. And I say this roster isn't competent, but I'm just saying more so in the sense of a roster he can actually compete with and be in a, conversation with the Sixers and Knicks and Celtics and whatnot. Even like, Cleveland and Orlando, teams like that, where we're actually like in the playoff push. I think once we get that, and that might be this year. I mean, who knows? Just see how it all comes together.
I mean, the East is wide
Or,
open.
exactly. I really just want to see him like be aggressive. There's too many games where he would have like 20 in the first half and then like 3 in the second half, or like vice versa. And it's kind of just like I understand not being able to score because some games you just aren't going to be able to score, but you have to be consistently aggressive throughout the whole entire game. You have to attack every single possession like it's the first or it's the last. And I think that's really just kind of where he has to get. And I think because he is such an unselfish player and he's always looking to make that, that next
He
pass
also gives a
or
lot on defense.
Exactly. But I mean, like, hey, when you're a star player, or when that's what energy is what you built your whole entire, thing off of, you can't, your energy can't waver. And that's a hard ask, but in the sense of he really just has to be that guy. I think when you look around the league and you look back in the past, the players who have been the best are the players who can play with energy from whistle to whistle. How are we going to be the best? I mean, Braun back in his past, Kawhi back in his past, Curry, like players like it feels like they're unrelenting, where it's like it almost feels like they're never going to not keep coming. Pause. No Diddy.
You didn't need to say that. Oh my god.
But yeah, I'm trying to think who else. I really want to see. We drafted a center out of the NBA Africa as like our the 57th pick, so the second to last pick, because 2 picks were voided because of tampering. Altridge Comchi, I don't know if I pronounced that right, out of Cameroon.
Can you start
We have a
before?
lot. No. But he's just a really big athletic like player. He definitely is going to be a lot of more project. I doubt he even gets any NBA playtime this year, or at least any significant NBA playtime this year. But I mean, just from us doing this pod for a year now, but then also just chopping up about basketball for almost 2 years, the biggest thing for me that's really held the Raptors back has just been having a consistent center that can defend the paint and grab rebounds. And we actually found that in, Jakob Poeltl when we traded for him. However, Jakob Poeltl broke his pinky. He didn't play. And then when he was playing, he couldn't fully grasp, Darko's system. So there's, a lot of just like growing pains with the offense. So it's going to be very interesting to see, like, even a player like him is still relatively young. I think he's like 26, 27. Just how he can really grasp the system of like Darko's pass first 0.5 system. And you would think it would really cater to a player like Jakob immediately, just because he is a center who may not have the biggest scoring upside because he is primarily just in the arc. Not even really he can shoot the mid range a little bit, but more so a paint, but in the arc, scorer. But just a player who really has really good passing chops for such a big player. Already like he's like one of the best passing bigs. So it really was surprising to see how he struggled a lot in the system, but maybe, year 2, full off season, it'll help him. I'm trying to think of any other young players. I'm just like, I really need them to take Emmanuel quickly. I really want to see him be more aggressive. I think he did a good job of that when he was traded to the Raptors.
Now. He got paid.
Yeah, but I really just want to see I just want to see him keep getting better and better. I think he was doing everything that he needed to do to be the best version of him at when we traded for him, but just keep that up. RJ Barrett kind of just proved that you deserve to be on a roster. I don't not necessarily say that he's a bad player, but the fit with him and Scotty is kind of a little bit junky. They're both